What's up, race fans? This is the HSL Diecast Nitro Racing Series. NASCAR might be on hiatus for the Olympics, but we're not. We're following the camera cruise to France for the 24 Laps of Le Mans. This race is going to be a little different from the first two. There's going to be 4 groups of 5 instead of 5 groups of 4. 6 laps each. 24 laps in the heat races. That's how you get the 24 laps. We did something nobody's ever done before, at least not since Gran Turismo 5. We gave the drivers permission to cut through the chicanes. It's going to be racing in a straight line, the cross between road course racing and drag racing that nobody asked for, but they're going to get anyway. It's going to be a load of fun. Now on to our driver lineups. You see Todd Bodine is our pole sitter. So drivers from the right to the left is how they qualified. The top 12 in points were guaranteed spots for this race, and that's how they will be for the most part going into the rest of the season. Now let's get ready for the first segment. You have your pole sitter Todd Bodine next to David Green. That's D driver and Alan Kulwicki in the second row. And Kulwicki plows under David Green. David Green goes barrel rolling. It's a drag race to the finish line. We got a huge El Reco behind him. Looks like Morgan Shepherd and D driver are on their roofs for an early exit. And we got to go check and see where David Green is. He's off the track. He has started barrel rolling real early. And we keep going back and further back, and there he is. He's on his wheels. He'll be starting in last. His day continues. And now it's time for lap 2. Todd Bodine remains in the lead, and he has David Green pushing him. Alan Kulwicki in the outer lane by himself. And they're off. Todd Bodine gets an advantage because of the push. Moves to block Kulwicki. Gets turned sideways. He's turned completely sideways, and he's blocking the other drivers from passing him, and he will lead this lap. It looks like Alan Kulwicki had the edge there. He did. Time for lap 3. Positions haven't changed at all. And it's a drag race between Kulwicki and Bodine. Bodine has quite a bit more speed. David Green crashes, trailing the pack. He's driving in a straight line. All of a sudden, he goes over the edge of the track and ends up on his roof. How the heck does that happen? And you can see his trashed car coming into focus. That's short of the finish line. Bad points day for David Green. He's out of the race. I think that car might be too unstable for his own good. And now it's time for lap 4. Only 2 out of the 5 drivers from this segment are still in it, and Todd Bodine is looking a lot faster than Kulwicki here. Remember, Kulwicki, the only car that survived Bristol. And it's a drag race. Todd Bodine just barely edges out Kulwicki going to lap 5. And they're going to continue to drag race for these last 2 laps. And Bodine's wheels lift at the start gate. Bodine flips. He's barrel rolling. Alan Kulwicki has clean air to the finish line. And Kulwicki crosses the line in first place. Let's take a look back and see where Todd Bodine is. And he is on his roof and out of the race. What a disappointing day for him. So close to getting into the main event. Just a lap and a half away. And instead of a trip to the feature event, he'll be credited with a DNF. And Alan Kulwicki just has to finish this lap in one piece to move on to the main event. That'll be his second consecutive main event. He, of course, won at Bristol, being the only car to finish every lap on his wheels, and only one of 6 to finish the preliminary races on his wheels. Now here is segment 2. On your front row, you have Ross Chastain. Came into this race barely clinging on to 12th in points, but he didn't need those points anyway. He qualified in second. Next to him, Ricky Craven, Bill Elliott, Richard Petty. Looks like Richard Petty wrecks on the first lap. That'll be the back-to-back DNFs for Richard Petty after getting a strong start in the 500. And look at that move. Ross Chastain falling back to third. Ricky Craven throwing a block. Looks like this lap is over for him, and he pushes Ricky Craven out of the way. Leads the lap by more than a car length. Just epic maneuvering by Ross Chastain in that lap, and it looks like Richard Petty's going to be an early exit from this event. Not to take away from what Ross Chastain just did. That was the best racing I've seen so far in this series, and it looks like our Daytona 500 winner, Jimmy, is not going to have a third consecutive top 5 finish. He is unfortunately out of the race too. Still should be high in points because of his good finishes so far this season, but we'll see what Ross Chastain and the crew can do this lap. And Ross Chastain gets a big lead. Bill Elliott gets a little wobbly and spins out driving in a straight line. I don't know what it is with these drivers that can't drive in a straight line today and end up on their roofs, but it's down to another drag race again. Like Ricky Craven's getting a little angry at Ross Chastain, flips him over past the finish line. That doesn't count, of course. And there's Bill Elliott on his roof. He will finish only slightly higher than Richard Petty in this event. And the next 3 laps are going to be a drag race. Ross Chastain, as long as he stays on his wheels, guaranteed a decent finish, remaining in the top 12. And the gate's going to go down. They have a good start. Ross Chastain takes the lead over Ricky Craven. That part is where the rubber tires are a disadvantage, and Ross Chastain is just making it look easy so far. And now it's time for lap 5. Ross Chastain once again. Ooh, Ross Chastain's wobbly. Ross Chastain, he recovers. He's blocking Ricky Craven. Will they make it to the finish line? And looks like he does not, but it's not the last lap. It shouldn't count. Ross Chastain still in first. Heading into the final lap, as long as he stays steady, that is an easy ticket to the finale. And Ross Chastain gets another lead off of the start gate. It looks like his rear end lifts up. He's riding the edge of the track, and he is off the track. And he'll be credited with a second place finish. And Ricky Craven takes the upset. He's going to go to the main event. Now it's time for segment 3. Segment 3 out of 4. You have E. Marshall and Jeff Fuller, Elmo Langley and Harrison Burton. And this segment's favorite, Johnny Benson, starting in the very back. He had good runs, bad run in qualifying, though. And E. Marshall takes that lap easy. Some pretty clean racing. Elmo Langley moves up to second. And there goes Johnny Benson all the way up from 5th to 3rd in that first lap. They're off. The 2 number 10 cars are pushing each other ahead of Langley there. And you see an El Reco for Jeff Fuller. He is on his roof and out of the race. Marshall barely edges out. Tight battle there between E. Marshall and Johnny Benson. Marshall's going to hold the lead to start off this lap. He's got Elmo Langley behind him. It's a heavier car than Harrison Burton has. And he gets a good push, has about a car length lead. And it looks like Benson's coming up on the outside to overtake him. Now Benson has the advantage coming up to the finish line. Benson throws a block, gets a car length lead over E. Marshall to lead that lap. And now Benson has the lead. Basically, the lanes have switched. Benson and Burton have taken over the left and right lane. Langley had some trouble at the start. And man, these two are drag racing like crazy. They are not giving each other an inch. And Marshall retakes the lead on the outside again. This is some awesome racing, guys. These two guys up front aren't giving each other anything. They're beating and banging back and forth every lap. Bumper length victory margins each lap. This is one of the best segments yet, guys. Gates are down. It looks like the Johnny Benson car and Elmo Langley had a bad start there. E. Marshall tries to throw a block. Harrison Burton getting left behind in the dust from the other 3 drivers. And they're going to push E. Marshall. He's going to keep the lead. Heading into lap 6. These two drivers are not giving each other an inch. This has been the best racing so far. And Elmo Langley flips over vertically. E. Marshall throws the block that's kept him the lead for most of this segment. Johnny Benson is coming up side by side. Johnny Benson slightly faster, and it looks like a tie. Johnny Benson and E. Marshall dead heat for the lead on the final lap. Elmo Langley 3rd, Harrison Burton 4th. And let's take a look closer at the finish here. That was incredible. Dead heat for the lead. Let's see if there's either of these drivers has the advantage. And just like the movie Cars, Lightning McQueen and Chick Hicks, they're It's a dead tie. They're both going to go to the feature. I've never seen that before. That's freaking awesome. Now it's time for the final segment, Sterling Marlin versus a bunch of older racing champions castings. I'm pretty sure how this one's going to go unless Sterling Marlin does something really stupid. And he takes the lead there by about half the track. Rusty Wallace edges out Jeff Gordon for second. And looks like Pete Hamilton didn't finish the lap. He's left behind, way far behind in the dust. And Sterling Marlin's going to lead him down for lap 2. This segment looks to be already over if that first lap was any indication. Sterling Marlin is putting on a clinic. He's already got a 4-5 car length lead going out of the first segment, and he takes first place by half the track again. Gordon overtakes Wallace for second place. This is more of a race for second place than anything else between Rusty Wallace and Jeff Gordon. Pete Hamilton and Bobby Labonte doesn't look like they have much, and Bobby Labonte wrecks. And they both recover. That was some pretty insane recovery by Pete Hamilton and Bobby Labonte. Both of them were on the roofs, sliding on the roofs, and they recover. They're going to keep racing on. Sterling Marlin, of course, the only one to finish this lap. And let's check on our back markers. It seems that both of them did recover from that. They both did recover from their flips, and Hamilton actually moves up a spot. Beats Labonte for fourth on that lap. And it looks like Jeff Gordon gets under the car. Sterling Marlin tries to knock Marlin loose, but Marlin recovers. Did make him bounce on the wall a little bit. He's riding the guardrail now. And they can't catch up. Even though Marlin stalls, Gordon and Wallace stall further back behind him. And he does retain the lead. He'll lead him to the start of the next lap. And now it is time for lap number 5. And they all go flying. Rusty Wallace goes flying. Pete Hamilton barrel rolls. Sterling Marlin's riding the catch fence. This lap is total anarchy, and it looks like Jeff Gordon may be able to take the lead. Jeff Gordon does. He'll be starting the final lap in the lead. Sterling Marlin's caught on the fence, and Jeff Gordon passes him while he tries to block Rusty Wallace. That's incredible. Sterling Marlin has the fastest car, but he won't be starting the lap with the lead. Let's take a look at where Pete Hamilton and Bobby Labonte ended up. And Bobby Labonte stayed on his wheels, but that is an El Reco for Pete Hamilton. He is on his roof and out of the race. 1 lap to go. His day is done. And now it's time for the final lap of segment racing. Jeff Gordon's going to lead the pack down, and Sterling Marlin takes a big lead off of the outside. And, yep, he beats the field by half of the track. Looks like Sterling Marlin beats Bobby Labonte for third place there. And, yep, it's going to be Wallace over Labonte for third. Sterling Marlin, of course, absolutely dominant this race. He led all but one of the 6 laps. And those laps he led were all by more than a track segment. His car will be pretty tough to beat in the finale. And now it is time for the seconds, thirds, and fourths race. There were not enough cars to finish to have individual races. The cars that finished second are in the front row. Middle row has the third place finishers, and the back row has the cars that finished fourth in their segments. And Harrison Burton is getting left behind in the dust there. Ross Chastain leads the first lap with a commanding lead. If he leads the second lap, he'll be going on to the main event. Elmo Langley beside him. Then you have Gordon and Labonte in the second row. Then Rusty Wallace in the back. And Gordon punts Ross Chastain into the air. He punts Ross Chastain right into Elmo Langley onto the opposite side of the track. Ross Chastain trying to hold on. He passes Gordon. He passes Gordon on the outside after Gordon crosses him into the air and throws a block and wins the seconds and thirds race. Ross Chastain overcomes an obvious wreck attempt by Jeff Gordon and gets the win in the seconds race, and he is moving on to the main event. What an incredible piece of driving by Ross Chastain. He's been incredible all day. Just putting on one YTMND-worthy epic maneuver after another every single lap, it seems. And if you take a look here, here's a screenshot of Elmo Langley jumping over top of Bobby Labonte. That was a pretty cool shot. And now it's time for the main event. E. Marshall had the fastest qualifying time of all the drivers here, so he's going to lead him to the start. Ross Chastain, of course, doesn't count because he got in through the seconds race. And his time in the finale is not going to last very long. E. Marshall has an El Reco. He's on his roof and out of the race. Sterling Marlin crosses the line first. Big surprise there. Big, huge lead over everybody else. Ross Chastain knocks him into the air after the finish line. A little bit of extracurricular activity. These two are the two best cars here all day, and I don't think they're going to give each other much room or respect out on the track today. They're going to go at it tooth and nail. And one less car on the track now. They clean up E. Marshall's debris. Sterling Marlin leads Ross Chastain and Alan Kulwicki and the rest of the gang down on the track. And looks like there's trouble for Johnny Benson as Marlin holds the lead again. Ross Chastain passes Kulwicki for second. We go back there and check on Johnny Benson, see if he stayed on his wheels. As the extracurricular activities after the finish line continue between the two major front runners. Like, dang, they are getting nasty with each other. See Ross Chastain and Alan Kulwicki outside of the box there. No, that was Sterling Marlin and Ross Chastain, not Alan Kulwicki. Now they're going to go back down for lap number 3. Johnny Benson was all right. He's going down the track backwards like Ross Chastain likes to do, and that doesn't work for him. He's flipping over. Looks like he's going to stay on his roof, and nobody's going to outrun Sterling Marlin. He takes a 2-car length lead over Ross Chastain. The two of them have been the class of the field all day. And the only way I don't think they'll finish 1-2 is if one of them takes the other out. But so far they've kept the violence to after the finish line, so none of that really counts. And there's Johnny Benson on his roof. He's been in all 3 of the main events, and he's choked in all 3 of them. It's kind of becoming a pattern, unfortunately. Or no, he choked in the seconds race, one of those races. But there goes Ross Chastain. On the outside, Sterling Marlin gets loose, tangles up with Alan Kulwicki a little bit, and that's all Ross Chastain needs to make his move. He's going to lead the field down for the next lap with just 2 laps to go. And now it's time for lap 5. Ross Chastain and Sterling Marlin still out front, Kulwicki and Craven in the back. Let's see what they got. The gates are down and Ross Chastain gets loose. Alan Kulwicki gets under Ross Chastain. He's on his roof. Sterling Marlin passes him. Ricky Craven passes him. Alan Kulwicki's coming up behind him. And he's stationary on his roof. And he taps Ross Chastain at the last second. Puts him back on his wheels. Doesn't even overtake him for third. He says, "I've got you, buddy. You're one of the better cars today. It won't be fair to let it end like this. We're going to have Sterling Marlin and Ross Chastain in the same row. Ross Chastain right behind Sterling Marlin in third." What an incredible race it's been today here at Le Mans. Time for the final lap. Sterling Marlin is 1 lap away from his first career Nitro Series victory. Ross Chastain gives him the push, gets a little loose. Ricky Craven gets a lead on him. Sterling Marlin's running away with the win, and Sterling Marlin wins at Le Mans. Ross Chastain recovers for second at the last minute. And there is your podium. Sterling Marlin wins, Ross Chastain. What an incredible day by him. Ricky Craven holds on for third place. These two guys are drivers to watch. Sterling Marlin and Ross Chastain, they put on a show today. Sterling Marlin so dominant every single lap he's been in. And Ross Chastain taking it over as the star of the show with all those epic risky moves, and he still ends up with a podium. If you look at the point standings right now, Sterling Marlin's only 5 points away from Alan Kulwicki. Takes the points lead for being in the final. Sterling Marlin, despite missing the Daytona 500, is now second in points. And there's Jimmy, Ross Chastain, Todd Bodine is 12th. The top 12, of course, get a guaranteed starting spot in the next race. That's it for the 24 laps of Le Mans. Like, comment, subscribe. Next time on the Nitro Racing Series, we're going to the Texas Motor Speedway for the Dallas Cowboys Suck 400. Thank you for watching, guys. See you next time at the track.